a lot of people joining, and if hello
Awesome.
everybody. I'm going to type in the chat.
What's up,
sure
Lisa? Hello. Yeah, we're live streaming, so we will kind of officially begin. But yeah, Emma, it's great to have you. Emma has a ton of expertise in a lot of areas when it comes to, I think of kind of copywriting, listing optimization, and more. But Emma, maybe you want to share a little bit as we hand it over to you. But we've enjoyed crossing paths with you. I know a few different times in masterminds, and I remember years past at some other events as well too. So yeah, this is a great session for everyone in terms of obviously everything to do with your listing or conversion rate. All of that, I always think about it, goes right to your bottom line, because every little bit of improvement you can make really can make a massive difference to your business. So with that, Emma, I'll hand it to you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for hosting me. And you're absolutely right, Jamie. It's one of those levers that you can really pull to impact sort of every aspect of your business. And it's obviously, the goal being to sell more, but it makes your PPC ads more efficient. It can help you turn inventory more effectively. There's just so many ways that a really solid listing can actually impact your business. And today I also want to kind of dive into starting to get into the mindset of preparing for Q4, because even though it's summertime, it's right around the corner. And if you're feeling like your listings need some work, now is really the time to start doing that. The worst mistake that you can make is waiting until November to start tweaking things, because first of all, we all know Amazon, and sometimes random things happen. And if something's not showing the way that it should be, you don't want that panic. But also this gives you a chance to be able to test, to continue to optimize and see what works, so that you're able to go into the holiday season super strong. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and dive in. And also, I'd just like to say, my goal with this conversation today is really to make this as valuable for everyone as possible. So if there are questions, I don't feel like it's necessary to wait until the very end to ask those. So I don't mind being interrupted. Please feel free to ask any and all questions that you might have, so that I can make sure to have this all make sense and make this as valuable for you as possible. So we kind of already covered that, so we don't need to go into that. My name's Emma Shermer-Tamir. I'm the CEO and founder of Marketing by Emma. That gentleman in the photo to the left of me is my husband and business partner, Erez. We've been in this space for a long time. We started Marketing by Emma at the end of 2016. And since then, we've worked with over 1,500 businesses from all over the world, helping them both launch new products as well as revamp existing product pages to really get them to the next level and converting to their very full potential, be that Amazon listings, website copy, or any of that text that's really going to help people understand who you are as a brand, why your product is so great, and why they should choose you over the competition. So I realize this might be sort of a strange place to start a conversation, that we're talking about wanting to get people to buy more. But one of the caveats that I always like to give is that you really want to make sure that you're not selling to the wrong people, or people that aren't going to be absolutely delighted with your product. Because ultimately, if somebody isn't a good fit for your product, then all you're going to do is make the sale, then create an opportunity for a negative customer experience, a potential negative review, extra return, and a lot of hassle. So you really need to make sure that you have a very clear idea of who's going to love your product, and then how to be able to position yourself in a way that is going to get in front of those customers, and even maybe turn away sometimes people that aren't a good fit for you. So there are a few key components that go into how to make a sale that stick. You need the right customer. You need to establish the right expectations, and then you need to deliver on the right experience. So the right customers, who is there some skill level that's involved? So like if you're selling something for doing yoga, is this more for beginners, or is this really a product that is better suited to somebody that is more advanced in their yoga practice and has already been doing yoga for years. Those two people are going to have two different sets of needs, two different sets of expectations, and just even the language they use and the way that they engage around that product is going to be very different. So that's the first thing. Then the right expectations. So being really clear about how your product fits into the wider category, and being really aware of both what your product is great at and what it's not great at, and being very clear about that with your marketing so that you're not sort of overhyping something or using language that might suggest that your product is better than what it is. And then of course you have to, at the very minimum, deliver on those promises that you're making, if not exceed expectations. So how can you make sure that you're giving customers a great experience? If you are selling a yoga product and you're talking about how your product is very sustainably made with the materials that you're sourcing and everything like that, but then your product comes packaged in layers and layers of plastic, that's not necessarily delivering the experience that people would expect from a sustainable brand. So this goes beyond even the product itself to all of the ways that you are interacting, engaging, and cultivating the relationship with your customers. So just sort of have that in the background of your mind as we go into some of the different aspects of what it takes to optimize your listing. And also, these same principles really can apply to any piece of copy that you are creating, and they apply to whether you are launching a product for the first time or whether you're looking to really take that listing to the next level. So of course, when you're selling something online, SEO is critical. So what can you do to make sure that you are standing out in the search results, not only to be visible in the search results, but then to also get people to want to click specifically onto your listing versus the others. I chose this image very specifically because, you look at these different colors of dried paint, and at least for me, my eyes are sort of overwhelmed by all of it, and I don't really know what to focus on. And that's a very similar experience to what a customer can have when they go to Amazon searching for a product, is they can get overwhelmed with options, but also options that are all sort of blending into each other and not necessarily standing out in a way that's helping them know which one to click into. So the more that you can actually really put your mind into the shoes of your customer, the better job that you'll be able to do at every single stage of this process. So imagine you're a customer, and let's say that you're shopping for wrinkle patches. So something that you're going to put on your face. Maybe you woke up, you didn't sleep well the night before, you look in the mirror and you notice there's some noticeably deeper lines on your face that you're not feeling great about. So you go onto Amazon, you're like, no, I'm not ready for this. I'm unwilling to show my age. I'm going to find a solution for this. So you go onto Amazon, and let's say that you're searching for wrinkle patches. So which one do you choose if you're a customer? You have 4 different options that are appearing just on the in the top placement. And we have all of these, which this is a little bit unique in a category. Oftentimes you'll see that almost all of the main images look identical. So you're really not given much at all to choose between. But if you're looking at this, it's still kind of confusing as to what to choose. We're getting a variety of different products. Some of them are showing us what the product looks like. Some are just showing us the packaging. It's not really clear much of anything. So the one that was actually in the top spot when I took this photo is Frowny's forehead and between eyes, 144 patches. So it's not even talking about wrinkles, but I do see a woman, it looks like she has some Band-Aid like thing on her face. Similarly with this blonde body, and then the other two, a little up in the air. So we're not given a lot of substance to work with here, both as a customer in making a decision, but also when it comes to a seller trying to get someone into your listing. In some ways, think of this as the sign that you put on the front of your door if you are selling something in a physical store. So this is what's telling somebody, yes, you're in the right place, come on in. So you really need to be thinking of what little space you have, what you can do to get people to confidently be able to click into your listing over all of the other options that are out there. So we already went over that. What's missing here in this Frownies? If we're thinking about optimizing this specific title in particular, we're not going to get as much into the main images today, but that is a really important facet of this as well that has its own science to it. So if we are looking at this Frownies forehead in between eyes, as I mentioned, there's no mention of wrinkles. There's really no mention of what this is, just on its most basic level, other than saying it's patches. It doesn't say patches for what. So we're missing out both on an big SEO opportunity here to include some popular phrases that customers might be searching for a product like this, as well as missing out on the opportunity to be able to, get people a reason to click into this listing over the other options that they have. So when we're thinking about building a title, or really any piece of your listing, I like to say that the keywords are the skeleton. And I mean this analogy full-heartedly in that you also don't want to see the skeleton. So it needs to be there. It's playing a very important supporting role, but it shouldn't be visible to the customer. So that means let's avoid, any keyword stuffing or making it too obvious that you're just trying to cram in a keyword that doesn't really make sense in a particular spot. So, of course, in order to have a strong skeleton, we need to have a really solid SEO strategy, and that all starts with keyword research. So these keywords were taken from Helium 10 when I was preparing this, and I'm pulling out things. This is organized by search volume, but you see I also have the competing products column in there as well. That's a really important element that you want to make sure to be considering when you're selecting the keywords that you want to use, because oftentimes the highly competitive keywords are going to be very difficult to build traction and momentum on. And so when you can find those keywords that have fewer competing products, and particularly ones that have high search volume, those can be a really great opportunity for people to integrate into their listings and really boost their indexing and ranking potential. So you see here we have a list of a lot of different keywords. Some of these are more valuable than others. The other thing to keep in mind when you're selecting what keywords to use is the difference between broader, more product discovery level keywords versus keywords that are more specific, highly relevant, and have higher buyer intent. So what do I mean by that? Skincare is a very general keyword. And as you see, there are over 100,000 competing products. So that's a highly competitive term that's going to be really difficult to be able to gain much traction on. But the other challenge with that is that skincare can apply to so many different things. So it can be face wash, it can be a patch like this, it can be a face mask, it can be even facial devices. So there's a lot of different types of products that all fit under skincare. So the people that are searching skincare, they might be window shopping or just sort of trying to, kill some time and feel like doing a little bit of retail therapy, but those are not going to be as highly motivated buyers as somebody that's looking for something more specific like face wrinkle patches, or even you see towards the bottom of the first section, Frownies facial patches. So that's actually a branded keyword that you see there's over 4,500 searches happening roughly a month specifically for facial patches from this brand. So you definitely want to make sure to be using that keyword phrase, since that's a rare opportunity as a seller even to have that much search volume for your own product. So you need to not only run your keyword research, but you need to be analyzing your keywords to curate a list of highly relevant, competitively viable keywords that you know that you're going to be able to use and apply to your product throughout your title, your bullets, your description, the back end, all the various places that you have to integrate your keywords. So the keywords are the skeletons, and then we want to think about what we're putting on top of that skeleton to actually have it speak to the customer, have it be inviting and click driving and all of those things. So on the left, I've just created some different questions that you might want to consider. Now, you don't necessarily need to add all of these answers to the title specifically, but these might be some things that would be worth adding into the title, specifically not only about this product, but in going back to that search results page and seeing what are those differentiators between this product and the other products that are out there. Why would somebody want this over any of those other ones? What is it? What does it do? What shape is it? Can it be used for anything else? What parts of the face can it be used on? How long does it take to see results? So these are all questions that you might want to be asking. And of course, every type of product is going to have its own set of questions that you'll want to be really thinking through as you go about optimizing. So one potential way that you could rewrite this title is what I have here on the right-hand side. So you see all of the orange highlighting, those are keywords from that previous list that we looked at. So you see we've managed to incorporate a pretty significant amount of keywords. We have that branded Frownies facial patches for wrinkles in there. The other thing that I really like to do when I'm analyzing a keyword list is looking for those keywords that have overlap. So there might be a smaller root keyword within the longer keyword. So in the case of that first part of the title, the Frownies facial patches for wrinkles, that is a 2-for-1. So Frownies facial patches is one keyword, and facial patches for wrinkles is another keyword. And so I was able to combine those together and not have to repeat the facial patches 2 times in order to use both of those keywords. So when you're able to find things like that, that can really help you avoid keyword stuffing while still getting a lot of SEO value out of every character that you are using. Okay. So ways to drive clicks with a killer title. Need to know information. Another thing you want to be considering is making sure that you're optimizing for both mobile and desktop. On mobile, the title will truncate or sort of get automatically shortened to around 60 to 90 characters. So that means that any of that super important information needs to be towards the front of your title so that people are seeing it on any of the devices that they are looking at it on. Considering things like key differentiators, relevant keywords, breaking up the phrases so that they're not just all in one long line. Using a little dash, for example, can just make it more readable and accessible for the customer. And then I like to treat titles like a puzzle. So thinking about how can you piece all of these things together? You get up to 200 characters in most categories. That is a pretty limited amount of space, but you have a lot of different things that you need to be doing in order to create an effective title. So it is, on the surface, might seem a little bit simple, but it's actually one of the more complex pieces of creating an effective listing. Okay, so we've talked about titles. Now let's assume that you've gotten customers into your listing. So we've crossed a really big hurdle that is a pretty big accomplishment in and of itself. But obviously the ultimate goal is to get people buying your product. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that we really understand what people are wanting to know about your product, that we are clear on what their key buying criteria is, and that we are positioning everything in a way that makes it very easy and accessible for them to find. So now let's shift gears to a pet treat. And let's say that you're shopping for odor-free Bully Sticks, as I find myself doing about once a month for my dog. And we get to the search results page, and this is what we see, packaging that looks fairly similar. All of the top listings have really high reviews. The pricing is a little bit all over the place, but sort of centralized in a somewhat common area when you look at it on a per unit price. Obviously, the whole price is different because they come with different quantities of things. So we're trying to gain traction in a pretty highly competitive category. And furthermore, this is a product that does not lend itself to a lot of natural differentiators, because at the end of the day, it's a single ingredient treat. So really the only things that you have for the product itself is the size of the product. Besides that, it's all coming from the same thing. So you are going to need to be creative with how you strategically position and brand your product if you really want to be able to win over customers, especially from some of these more established and well-known brands. So the first stage is to get organized. What does that mean? That means really thinking about what is the need to know information and how can you sort of consolidate that around similar themes. So one of the places where this is most important is your bullet points, but this is also really important if you are creating your images and thinking about what information you're going to add into each image, or with your A+ content. So we'll be talking about this more specifically with the bullets, but this sort of concepts are things that you should be applying to every part of your listing. So grouping similar information together, being very clear on what people need to know, being very concise with how you write things. So you don't want to get too wordy. Keyword stuffing is what not only poor user experience, but it will also sort of tempt you into maximizing all of your character counts, which is then going to create a really negative customer experience. So keeping it concise and short so it's easy to skim and navigate. Answering any important questions sort of on the get-go. So anticipating what questions a customer might have and then addressing those right at the forefront so that they're not left wondering or having to do a lot of extra digging to figure that information out. So here is a particularly terrible ballistic listing. On the left, the bullets are not organized at all. They're using these all caps headers, which those are, you don't actually want to use all caps in your bullets like that. That is technically against Amazon's terms of service. You might see that some people get away with it, but from my perspective, that is a pretty unnecessary risk to take that doesn't really have much high reward that comes along with it. But aside from that, if you look at the headers that they're using here are intended to sort of tell us what each bullet point is about. And they're clearly not doing a very good job, because if we're just looking at that, we see premium quality and healthy, natural flavor, chewy and tasty, and our tasty. So we don't know what at least 3 of the bullets are about. Natural flavor is a little confusing to me, especially because humans aren't the ones that are eating these treats. And then premium quality and healthy, it's almost like they're trying to include all of the information that we need to know within that first bullet. So a good framework to use when thinking about how to build out your bullets, and this is what we use oftentimes when we are helping clients with their listings, is what we have on the right-hand side. So that first bullet talking about the unique selling point and the primary benefit. So why should someone choose this product, this brand, over all of the other options that they have? You want to make that crystal clear to the customer as soon as possible. Number 2, important features, main buying criteria. So other things that are quite important, but are not in that top spot space. Bullet 3, secondary features. So things that might only be interesting or important to some buyers. Bullet 4 is great for things like care, compatible with, good for, manufactured in. So things that aren't necessarily as exciting, but still important and necessary for people to know. And then we really like to use bullet 5 for trust and brand building. So again, really thinking about what we're going to do to be able to encourage customers to want to choose this particular product and brand over the other options that are out there. So if we were to sort of think about how to restructure these bullets, following that framework, on the left, you have what they currently have, which is pretty much nothing. On the right, you might say the first bullet is about keeping the dog happy, healthy, and out of trouble. The second bullet, happy human, long lasting, odor free. And what you might not recognize that I'm doing with these is I'm also thinking about how can I put a spin on this that is not necessarily special about this product, but that no other bully sticks are really talking about. And so one of the things that I noticed when I was doing research in this category is that there's really very little mention of the human experience with these treats. And you might be thinking, what do you mean human experience? Dogs are eating these, not humans. But the fact of the matter is that humans are the ones that are buying these. So we want to make sure that we are addressing them and the things that might be driving them to choose a product like this. Now, bully sticks are expensive and they're more of a premium treat. And so if we want to encourage somebody to spend more money on a product than, just like a cheap milk bone or something like that, we need to help them understand why this product is a worthwhile investment. And so one of the things that I know from being a dog owner is that a bully stick is a great way to divert energy. So when I'm trying to sit down to dinner with my husband and my dog decides that now is the time for him to demand my attention, that's obviously not an ideal scenario. So a bully stick can be a great way to keep him occupied, to channel some of that destructive energy into something that's healthy for him, and then for me to be able to get a little bit of peace and quiet. So just by simply addressing some of the things that we know to be true about the human experience with this product and presenting it through that frame, we are able to sort of position this product in a unique way than all of the other competitors that are just purely talking about the fact that this is a healthy treat. So it's not that the healthy aspect doesn't matter. It's that if we sort of take a slightly different approach to it, then we help change the conversation a little bit and create an opportunity to be able to make some sales that would otherwise be much more challenging to make. Another thing to be thinking about as you're building all of your copy is to fuse your benefits and features together. So what do I mean when I say that? Benefits are answering the question, what's in it for me? Why would I want this? How is this solving my problem? How is this making my life better? So those are all of the reasons why we choose to make the decisions that we do and the purchases that we make. However, it doesn't mean that those important feature details aren't also important. So what I've found is that by combining those two together, you have a really strongly compelling, emotionally compelling statement, and then you're backing it up with a detail that's also going to be important to the customer. So what makes it better and different, and really digging into what is the emotion behind this purchase? So in the case of the bully stick, maybe that emotion is frustration at, household furniture and items being destroyed by a dog that just has so much energy, or that they are, every treat that they give them, the dog only has interest in for a minute or two, or eats it up in a couple of bites, and then it's back to driving the owner crazy. So really thinking about what that experience is that somebody is feeling and going through that drives them to open up Amazon and to look for the product that you're selling. So just to sort of dig into this a little bit deeper, let's look at what do I mean by benefit, because I think that sometimes benefits we can get a little bit stuck on them, and we can get stuck at a surface level. So that's what I like to call a general benefit. So in this case, a general benefit would be healthy. So that's good. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it being healthy, but we can go a little bit deeper to figure out why it would matter that this is healthy. And so you see that I've pulled apart, I've paired a feature with a specific benefit that all relates to this being healthy. And really, I could make a listing just focused on these elements if I wanted to. So 100% digestible, that's one of the first details. And this is just pulling apart all of the details that are in the first bullet of the original listing. So 100% digestible. Why would somebody care about that? Well, then maybe it means that the dog won't get sick, which means that the dog won't make a mess, which means that the dog won't ruin the beautiful white wool rug that they just purchased. Scrape away plaque and tartar. So maybe that's that it's going to help increase longevity because having healthy dental hygiene is going to lead to better cardiovascular health, so the animal will be able to live longer. So you see here where I'm really kind of digging in deeper and taking that extra time to really be thinking about why something's going to matter on an emotional level to the person. And it's not that you always have to speak about it directly, but even if you have that awareness and knowledge in the back of your mind, it will make everything that you're writing far more persuasive for the end user. So we all know people are visual shoppers, and they're just becoming increasingly more visual shoppers as social media just takes over our lives. Even, Amazon has a TikTok-like function directly within the platform for product discovery purposes. So we're seeing a real shift in social commerce and what that looks like, and being able to adapt that and really utilize that to your benefit is going to help you not only do better now, but also position yourself more strongly for the future. And why am I saying that? Because like a year and a half ago or a year ago, Amazon was testing a feature where it was actually, you could scroll through all of the product images directly from the search results page on mobile. And that's pretty impactful if you think about it, because if done correctly, that would mean that potentially the customer would never have to even click into the listing in order to purchase the product. But also, if the photos are not done well, then it might turn somebody away because they're just like, oh, those photos are not, that they look less than impressive, and I want to buy from a company that's higher quality than would have pictures like that. So what can you do to sort of have this? So we know that this is something that Amazon has tested, meaning it's possible that at any random day, they could decide that this is just how things are. But also we know from buyer behavior that imagery does play a very important role in your images, in your purchasing decision. So with those things in mind, what can you do to make your images as persuasive as possible? Ideally, what you want to do is you really want to take the framework of your entire listing and tell that same story through your product images. So that if somebody never even looked at your bullets, never even looked at your A+ content, they would be able to get all of the important highlights just from looking at your images. And so that means that you're going to have to use text in a really thoughtful way in order to be able to achieve that. If you just have pretty pictures, but you don't have any text, you are really not maximizing this real estate to its full advantage, because people are not necessarily going to know what you're trying to show them with a picture. But if you incorporate a little bit of text, then it makes it so that every single person that looks at that image gets the exact message that you want them to get. So some different things to consider adding into your product images, of course, highlighting key details. So anything that might be particularly important for helping to understand how the product works, what it's compatible with. Sometimes those things are super important. Reinforcing important selling points, connecting the dots, and elevating with emotion. So imagery is also a really great way to sort of touch more deeply back to some of that benefit ideology that we were talking about. So what is that sort of end case going to be? So someone has a problem, goes to Amazon to solve that problem. What's that beautiful future that's, that problem has been solved after they have the product in your life? Thinking about that when you're creating your messaging will make your photo text far stronger. So you want it to be scrollable, even if it's not necessarily scrollable on all platforms yet, but considering sort of the progression and the order of how you place images next to each other and the flow that's going to happen, so that if they're just kind of clicking through, then they're getting that information in a way that makes sense and is ordered in an appropriate way. Of course, considering mobile friendly design. So if you are using infographics, thinking about, not making anything too small so that it's going to be difficult to read or fully understand on mobile. You don't want to do anything that's going to make someone have to scroll. Anytime that somebody's going to have to make more effort, the likelihood that that person's actually going to make that effort is quite low. So you really want to remove any of those friction points. And then lastly, really thinking about how to present your brand identity in a way that is representing who it is that you're saying you are, the things that you care about. So if you are selling leggings and you're talking about body positivity and inclusivity, but then the only images that you have are a bunch of very skinny young women, then that's not necessarily going to be reflecting what the words that you say. That's going to create a disconnect that can lead to a lack of trust from your customers and fewer purchases. Whereas if you're talking about that body inclusivity and positivity, then having different shapes and sizes and ages and colors is all going to go much farther in helping you really represent what you say that you care about. I know we're sort of zooming through. I think we're nearing the end, so I hope I haven't overwhelmed you with too much knowledge. But one of the things that you can do, and I just sort of briefly touched on it with that last point, is the more that you can think about how to brand yourself. And this is also a little breadcrumb that I've been dropping throughout the presentation, but thinking about how you can strategically position yourself within the competitive landscape, you will be able to go much farther and achieve much more success. So I really encourage you, particularly when you're selling on Amazon, this is so important because you're right there up against all of your other competitors. People don't have to make an extra effort to go to another website. Your competitors are right there. They're easy to find. They're easy to click into. And so you need to give people a reason to choose you over the other options that are out there. And if you're trying to be like everyone else, then it's just a rack of white t-shirts. And how is anybody supposed to decide? They're going to decide based on either the amount of reviews or what's the cheapest or some other thing that may or may not be arbitrary, but it's the only thing that they have to make that decision. So if there's no clear differentiator, people are forced to choose based on price or reviews. So let's just look at a quick example of this before we wrap things up. These are two high caffeine coffees. The product itself, pretty much identical. We have Melita high caffeine ground coffee on the right and Black Rifle Coffee Company. This is also their high caffeine coffee blend. Sorry, got my lefts and rights mixed up. Left is Melita, right is Black Rifle. Melita's A+ content on the surface looks okay. Nothing super impressive, pretty generic. We could easily put Folgers on this or, any other Maxwell House, one of those other sort of big box brands that, nobody really buys because they're the best cup of coffee, but they do the job, or that's just what their household drinks. So this is Melita. They're not really giving us any particular reason why we should choose them or why they're the go-to for high caffeine coffee or anything like that. Which interestingly, actually, Melita, they invented the coffee filter. So they actually have a long history of impacting the way that we consume coffee for over 100 years now. So it could be a really interesting way of being able to position themselves with their imagery and their text and how they're branding themselves, but they're just totally missing out on that opportunity. Whereas on the right, we have Black Rifle Coffee Company. They've really just had incredible success in the e-commerce space over the last 10 years. And really, a lot of it comes down to having a very clear sense of who they are and who they aren't. So they are a veteran-owned coffee company. And you see, if you look at their A+, and I'm not saying that this is the best A+ in the world. I think it's a little bit wordy. I think that it could be better designed, but what it's doing really well is it's communicating who this brand is, and it's giving people a reason to choose this company in a commodity market, because coffee is a commodity. There's, yes, you can roast it different ways or source it from different places, but there's really not that much that truly differentiates the coffee itself. So they're actually, what they're selling is they're selling the opportunity to be able to support and be a part of a veteran-owned, very strongly patriotic company, and through the purchase of coffee. But they could be doing the same thing, selling socks or, any other good out there. It's just coffee is what they've chosen. And so you see, we have a picture of the team, a letter from the founder, and a picture of him. And all of these images, people are also wearing Black Rifle Coffee Company merch. So they have really figured out very strongly who they are, and they are extending an invitation to people that are going to be excited about that to join them and become part of their community. In a similar way, there are people that are going to see this and might be turned off, that are, not as enthusiastic about supporting the military and armed, the police forces and everything like that. And so it is a bold choice to be able to say, we know who our customers are and we know who our customers aren't. And there's so much value in that, because they're also selling a consumable, which means that if they can win you as a customer and make you somebody that's really excited about this product, first and foremost, you're going to become their house's go-to coffee choice for every single morning. And they're probably going to tell their friends about it. And so there's incredible value, not only in the customer lifetime value, but also even in the word of mouth marketing in doing this well. So I would strongly encourage you to think about how you can differentiate your product so that you can stand out, so that you can give people a reason to choose you. And you can do that. That's sort of a topic that's much broader than what we are able to go into today. But the more that you can do that, the braver you can be with that, the more opportunity that you are going to discover. With that, I'd also love to offer a free listing analysis. So if you saw all this and you're like, yeah, I'm doing all that, checking all those boxes, and you want somebody to take a look and make sure that you're doing it well, we'd be happy to take a look. On the other hand, if you see all this and you're like, wow, I'm totally overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, and you want another set of eyes to help you figure out some of the things that you can update to make your listing more effective, we're happy to provide those notes as well. And then, of course, if you just don't want to do any of it and want to leave it to us, we're happy to take over and help you optimize your listing and getting it geared up for Q4. And here are all of our contact details. We're on all the platforms and love to help in any way we can. I feel like I was just talking a million miles a minute, but I'd love to open things up for questions.
Awesome, Emma. Yeah, really, really good info there too. I like on the mention about the ways you can use images. Yeah, Andrea says thank you.
Yeah, so
Lisa,
good.
awesome info. So Maurice, do you see his question? So it's okay to sacrifice keywords in the bullet points to make them shorter and quicker to read?
Yes. Yeah. So I would say people seem to take a scarcity mindset when it comes to keywords in their listings, and they think that they just have to cram in as many as possible. But especially when you have A+ content, you have so much space for keywords. You have the title, the bullets, the product description. You have even the image keywords fields that are not even visible to the customer for each image that you have in the A+ content. So there are many different places that you can put keywords, which means that you shouldn't need to sacrifice readability or customer experience to cram in a bunch of extra keywords. Not to say ignore keywords. A good rule of thumb is to aim for at least 2 keywords per bullet. Another thing that will help you is what I mentioned with the title section, which is finding ways to sort of combine phrases together so that you might be able to get 2, 3, even 4 keywords within one long phrase. That's sort of my favorite approach, particularly when it comes to places like the bullets, where you are trying to keep things very concise and to the point.
Yeah, Richard had along those lines just said, question, if keywords don't go in your bullet points, then where should they be placed? Just hidden keyword fields.
Yeah, so I mean, your product description in particular is a great place for keywords if you have A+ content. Not to say that you should just keyword stuff it. Our approach is to still make sure that the product description is readable and something that you would be happy for customers to see. Sometimes the product description is hidden when you upload A+ content, but sometimes it is still visible. And of course, at any point in time, it could change and it could always be visible. So you want to make sure it's readable, but because the product description is more free form, you have more flexibility with how you can work different phrases in, and you can even make lists and things like that. And so the product description in particular is a great place to incorporate those keywords. And then, yes, as you mentioned, the backend keywords field, the image keywords and the A+ content, lots of space for all the keywords.
Awesome. And then the questions keep coming. Angela asks, Emma, you mentioned knowing your customer and what drives their purchase decision. How do you suggest new sellers get to know their customers, and what insights should they be looking to capture?
So one of my favorite ways of doing this, and you can either think of yourself as an actor preparing for a role, or as like a researcher sort of doing research and investigating like an anthropological investigation. So whichever one of those feels more right to you, I would encourage you to do. And so consider, where are your customers hanging out? What are the things that your customers care about? What are the influencers that your customers are following? And so really thinking through the types of content that your customers are consuming, the places that they are coming together in community, and then observing. So that can be places like Reddit or Facebook groups. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram are all fantastic places. And it's the great thing about all of these places that I mentioned is that it's not just sort of learning about what the customers are talking about. It's also learning about how the customers talk about things, because every category of a product, you're going to have those people that are really enthusiastic about it. And they're going to have their own vocabulary that an outsider might not know. So for example, people that are really into color cosmetics know that one of the sort of biggest compliments that you can pay to a powder formula of eyeshadow or blush is that it's buttery soft. But I don't think that anybody that knew nothing about makeup would think to describe the powder formula as buttery. And so there are different little, vocabulary or expressions or references or all those things that might be really important ways that people are communicating around a product and category that you need to know in order to make sure that you are coming across as somebody that gets it, rather than somebody that's just trying to sell you something. So that's what I do. That's what I recommend. There are a lot of other exercises that you can do. You can even use tools like ChatGPT to, do some customer avatar creation. But I still think there's a lot of value in actually going and finding those places where customers are engaging online, because you're going to learn more than just some raw details. You're also just going to get a sense of who these people are and what they care about.
Stuff. And then Mary asks, I'm not familiar with the canonical URL, but if I optimize my title, how does the optimization affect this?
So the canonical URL essentially, so this is an SEO term. And when you go to Amazon and you have like the URL, there's a part of it that is different keywords with dashes in between. And so that's just going to be generated automatically by Amazon. And it's most of the time, it's just taken from the first few words of your title. So one way that you can encourage Amazon to create a canonical URL that's going to be working in your favor, and I guess I should take a step back before we get there. Why is this important? Because if you have those keywords in the URL that's pointing to your listing, that's actually going to help your SEO for off Amazon search as well. So let's say that you're selling the wrinkle patches and you have Frowny's facial patches for wrinkles, and that's your canonical URL, then that's going to help you appear higher in the search results on Google for those keywords. So that's why the canonical URL is important. The way that you can encourage the creation of that is after the first 5 words, you put a dash. And that's kind of signaling to Amazon that that's the cutoff and that's where you want it. There are like and some of those conjunction words are not included as part of that. Also, numbers are not in that word count. But that is a way that you can sort of encourage that to happen and just give your product page an additional SEO boost.
Yeah, because like the link if you guys just copy and paste off of your listing at the URL, that can change and has the extensions on it, as opposed to the actual canonical, which doesn't change unless you, like I said, you update your title. I know some other times when we've done just like you said, for kind of Google ranking purposes, but if we do any of the, we drive any of like traffic to that URL or things like backlinks, anything like that. It's important to make sure you have the right URL. And if you make changes that you understand that your canonical URL, just make sure you grab the correct one.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, really good questions. I know Maurice, I think, has follow-up questions. One of our coaches here said, so should we also shorten our titles and keep it to the point?
I'm still overall a fan of maximizing your character count, specifically when it comes to title, for a couple of reasons. One being that even on desktop, oftentimes the title is getting truncated or shortened, so you're not seeing the full title until you click into the listing itself. So that just means, because the title does have a significant influence on your SEO, and so it's a good place to put your really highly relevant, super important keywords there. I don't think that it's taking away from the user experience, even if you have a longer title. But with all of that said, I do think there's some variation when it comes to different categories and sort of what best practices and customer expectations are of all of the different parts of your listing that you can do testing on. The title is one of the ones that I think you can get the best and most actionable data from. So it's definitely worth maybe even doing some testing, like with a managed experiments, to see if having a shorter or longer title influences how what your performance is as far as how many people are clicking in to your listing.
Nice. And then Kelvin's asking, would the backend keywords be different than the keywords used in the listing?
There are varying philosophies on this. Some people say the really important things you should repeat on the back end. Some say it's not necessary and you no need to repeat. So again, that's something that you might want to test out for yourself, where we tend to suggest that it's not necessary to repeat. But like I said, there's a lot of different people with a lot of different opinions on this, and they all seem very persuasive. So I don't have a solid conclusion on that matter. What have you guys found?
I repeat because I'm so obsessed with wanting to win my keywords that I find it doesn't hurt to repeat. And yeah, I like how you said test it. And I know definitely testing, but I repeat my like top 5 keywords for sure.
Yeah.
There was a question a while ago that let me scroll back up that Mary had. It was actually about images. Here it is. Mary said, I noticed that on Amazon, many main images include things other than just the product. Are the Amazon requirements different for different categories? I'll let you answer that, Emma, and I can help you out too.
Yeah. So different categories do have different rules. Like, for example, something like clothing, you can have somebody modeling the clothing, because that's obviously going to really, like a dress, if it's just had to be sort of like flat laid on the ground, is not going to look very nice compared to on a human body. So it depends on the category and what you're selling, and whether you can have a model in the picture or not. Just main image optimization in itself is a whole topic that there's a lot of nuance to, and there's a lot of different things to consider. And one of the things I think that's definitely make sure that you understand what the rules are for your category. But also that's a place where it's very helpful to be thinking about how can you stand out, almost more than almost any other part of your listing, because obviously if people don't click into your listing, then all the other effort you make doesn't really matter. And the main image does play such a pivotal role in that. And if people are just seeing a bunch of pictures that all look the same, it's going to be really difficult to get anybody into your listing.
And then Maurice has a follow-up. In your experience, do sales convert better when the brand owner is in an image somewhere on the listing with the brand story or mission statement? It's a good question.
That is a great question. I did read a while ago that having, and this wasn't specific to Amazon, but that having the brand owner's name, and I actually did not know this when I named my company, but having the brand owner's name in the company made it appear more trustworthy to people. So I think there's probably some value to having the owners present, but I don't think that it's necessary. Obviously, if you want to be the face of your business, that is a very personal choice and something that has pros and cons. And so I would say that, is it a lever that you could potentially pull to see if it would get some value? Yes. Is it worth it if you don't ultimately want to be the face of your business, or if it also doesn't relate to what it is that you're selling? Not every category necessarily requires that degree of personal connection. If you're selling paper clips, for example, I don't really think people care about, whether the owner's face is there. Whereas maybe if you're selling something that has a really personal origin story, like you're solving a specific problem that you had, or you are very much a part of the community that you're selling to, then there could be more value in exploring whether you would want to do that. So yeah, I haven't seen any specific numbers on that. But in general, you can personalize things even if you don't want to be the face of it. You can still find ways of being able to connect with people without putting your face on it if you're not comfortable.
Awesome. And then Mary had a follow-up question about the testing we were talking about. She's asking, how do we do this? Is it you just change the listing and see what happens, or are there other tools for testing? What do you do, Emma?
So I don't do this because that's it. We don't take access to clients' accounts, but you have managed experiments through Amazon that you can actually test. And I think that it's better to do it directly through something that is designed for A/B testing, because if you're just simply changing it yourself, there are so many factors that you can't really take into consideration that could be skewing your results. So having it be in a controlled A/B tested environment is going to minimize the likelihood that you're getting false signals that something is good or isn't good. So, everything from like time of year to trends to like all those things can impact how something may or may not perform. So that would be my recommendation.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer.
The
Awesome.
other thing I'd add to it, whenever you're testing things, and the different ways to do it is just try to, I guess, to a similar point, is just try to limit the variables as much as possible, right? So you
Yes.
want to be careful around changing pricing or running coupons or anything like that to the point. So you try to isolate the test as much as possible.
Yeah, think of it like you're back in high school doing a science experiment. You know, you need to make sure that you're really only changing the thing that you're running a hypothesis on. So if you have too many other elements that are also, that's why I don't understand. I think Amazon lets you also A/B test A+ content. And I don't really know how to do that in a very controlled way because there are just so many different variables there. But yeah, there's lots of good resources on how to set up a good test to make sure that you're getting quality and useful data that you can then make meaningful choices with.
Awesome, Emma. Yeah, a lot of great questions from all of you. Appreciate you guys all asking those. And yeah, this is really good. And again, I know Emma shared the contact info, and then also, do you want to put back up there your QR code maybe one last time there too? Yep, if you guys want to take advantage of that. That was a ton of value shared in that session. And like we said at the beginning, it really can move the needle in your bottom line, because most stuff you talked about doesn't require necessarily, added spend. It's just about improving the quality of your listing. I love the, understanding your customer and the brand that you want to represent and connect with your ideal customer. So a lot of real good info. Yeah, Avery says thank you. Awesome. And Emmy, any final thoughts? Emma?
Yeah, I would say, just this is, as the name says, it's listing optimization. So it's not static. It's not something you do once and then you're done with it and you never have to revisit. It is something that a lot of times what we see is people are coming to us and maybe they got into Amazon in the early days, so they dominated a category for years. They were killing it in the top spot. And then a hungry competitor comes in and they're more up to date on what's working with all the things, and they're wanting to invest in high quality creative and great imagery. And suddenly this listing that was dominating the top spot is starting to fall down the ranking. And so it's something that, you need to keep an eye on what your competitors are doing. You need to understand what's happening in your category, what's happening trend wise, and taking all of those inputs to be able to make sure that you're continuing to keep your listing and, as finely tuned as possible so that you can continue to grow and reach your goals.
Well said. Awesome. Well, good stuff. And I know, Joey, we'll have the recording, right? So we'll, for anyone who didn't catch the beginning or anything else, right?
Yeah. So typically these will take about, I don't know, maybe up to 24 hours to get into your membership area. And then we're also streaming it on our private page. So if you need to watch it like right away, go to the private Facebook page and you can rewatch it there. But yes, this will be in your membership area and it's a great one to rewatch. So I definitely encourage that.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Emma. This was a really good insight for everybody. And again, for everyone else, all of the guys in our coaching program, you can hit us up with questions in Voxer and follow up. I know Emma shared her info, but if you guys need any help reconnecting with her, let us know. We'll make sure we get you over to her as well. So thanks, Emma.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.